Hey everybody, how are you? Chad Thibodeaux here. So glad to have you here. Got a great topic for you today. It's how to build an audience, increase your influence, and launch your product using a webinar. And I'm really curious to know how many of you have ever attended or been on a webinar, and the whole point of you going on that webinar you thought was to buy a product. Give me a little bit of insight. How many of you went and launched, or not launched, but you signed up, registered for a webinar, and you knew that the intent of you being on that webinar was to launch a product? Let me know in the chat room if you went and you said, "Hey, I'm gonna come on this webinar because I can't wait to spend money." I mean, how many of you have ever done that? You said, I can't wait to spend money, so I'm going to jump on a webinar right now. Yeah, nobody ever does, right? The point of being on a webinar is for you to learn, right? But the point of somebody presenting a webinar is not only to teach you, but it's to make money, okay? But so you've got to think about this. The entire point of why we're getting on the webinar, from an audience standpoint and from a presenter standpoint, they're not parallel. Okay, one is going on there to learn something, and one is going on there to sell something. So as a presenter, if I'm going to do a webinar, the whole point of me doing a webinar is to make money. Yes, I want to teach you something. Yes, I want to build a relationship. But really, let's be honest with you, the whole point of me doing a webinar is because I'm going to sell something at the end, right? But your audience, you have to understand that they're not coming on with the idea that they're going to spend money with you. They're coming on with the idea that, hey, I'm here to learn something. So depending on what you teach a webinar on, I'm getting ready to do a webinar here before too long, and I'm going to be talking about a 10-step game plan on how you can launch your business, grow your platform, and double your income in 2018. So I'm going to, in a few days, I'm going to be teaching that webinar. So many people, I'm expecting hundreds, hopefully thousands, that's my hope, will jump onto that webinar and listen to my teaching and training on how to do that. And they're going to come on with the understanding that, hey, I'm coming with mind open, pen and pencil handy, and I'm hoping that Chad can teach me everything that he knows about 10xing or about doubling my income in the next 12 months. And I will. I'm going to go on there and I will give it my best, okay? I've got an entire outline. I've got a whole script, and I'm going to be teaching you all that today on this training. But I've got a ulterior motive. And my ulterior motive is at the end of that webinar, I'm ultimately going to be selling them on my Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy and on my Launch 28 online course, right? So my ulterior motive is to give them free information, build a relationship with them, but ultimately make money off of them, okay? And so if you know that going in, that the presenter and the customer, or the audience, so to speak, have two different reasons for being on there, then there's a psychological shift that you've got to be able to make in order to move an audience member or a participant into a customer. And so that's what I want to talk with you today specifically is how to launch a webinar. And here's what you have to know, is there is no better way to grow your list or to sell your product than with a webinar. If you're trying to do an online business and you don't know where to start or what to do or how to take it or whatever, what I would tell you is you should start with a webinar. And you say, well, Chad, I'm not a very, very good presenter. I'm nervous with the camera. And here's what I would tell you is you need to, that is a skill and a task that you need to learn incredibly quickly. Here's why. The reason is because the greatest tool that you have in your arsenal in an online business is a webinar. Now, what is a webinar? A webinar is simply a virtual training, just like I'm doing right now. It's a virtual training where you get on and you teach a specific topic with a specific outcome to educate your audience so then that you can buy something from them. So they can buy something from you. That's what a webinar is, okay? And there's no greater way to build your business, launch your product, double your income than using a webinar. The conversion rates on a webinar are incredibly high. The reason is because of what we call the law of reciprocity. Now, what is the law of reciprocity? The law of reciprocity simply states this, that when I do something for you that adds value to you, you feel a psychological obligation to return the favor. Let's just sort of break this down to its simplest form. If you and I were to go to a restaurant, let's rephrase it. We don't know each other, but we're both going to the same restaurant. And that restaurant has two sets of doors, okay? It has a door on the outside, then it's got a little lobby, and then it's got a door on the inside that goes to the restaurant. And let's say that I'm in front of you, and you're right behind me, and I go to that first set of doors, and I open the door, and I say, here, you may go, okay? And now you've got a set of doors in front of you. What do you think you're going to do? Well, the law of reciprocity says, because I open the door for you on the outside, you're going to feel psychologically obligated then to grab the inside door and hold it open and then let me pass through. That's what the law of reciprocity is if I do something for you that adds value to you, you feel psychologically obligated to do back to me. Well, the reason why webinars convert so high is because you've come onto a webinar, and if you've done a really good job, you have truly, truly helped your audience. And then at the end of the webinar, when you give them something to purchase, many of them feel psychologically obligated to purchase that product. That's why webinars do so incredibly well. Think about this. Have you ever been to like a play, okay? Like it's Christmas time, and there's lots of musicals out there. My favorite musical is a Christmas Carol. And have you ever been to one where it was free? And you went to it and you just loved it. Boy, they just did a bang-up job. And on the way outside, on your way out, all of the actors and actresses that take their hat off and they put it out, and they're asking for donations, okay, to help them keep the play going. Don't you sort of feel like psychologically obligated to give them some money on your way out the door? And if you don't, like if you're anything like me, when you're walking out that door, and if you don't have money, what's our natural reaction? We just start patting our pockets, and oh my gosh, and we do everything. Like we touch our chest and we touch our rear end, like any place that we think we'd have money. Because why? Because we feel psychologically obligated that we should give money to that play because they added value to us. And the same is true with a webinar. If you're trying to grow your business, if you're trying to launch your product, if you're trying to double your income or increase your influence or whatever, there's no better way to do that than a webinar. So because of the law of reciprocity. Now, there are 5 different types of webinars, okay? 5 different types of webinars. You have what we call the scripted lecture. And you see a lot of people who do this, or they literally will write out word for word their entire lecture that they want to do on a webinar. Okay, so that's what we call the scripted lecture. The second one is an interview. That's where, like in a little bit later on today, I'm going to have a guy by the name of Dennis on, and I'm going to interview him live on camera just like this. And if that were a webinar, that would be a perfect classic case of an interview webinar. That's where you have a host, and then you have an expert. And the host will interview the expert and extrapolate all sorts of wisdom from that expert. That's what we call an interview. Then you have the hybrid. The hybrid is when a host, like me, will get on here, and I'll be with the expert, and we'll do the beginning of the show together, the beginning of the webinar together. I'll ask him some questions, break the ice, welcome everybody. But then when it's time for the teaching, the host will go away, and the expert will take over the teaching for that entire teaching component, and then later on, the host will come back on and make the sell. Okay, so that's what we call the hybrid. Then you have the Q&A webinar. The Q&A webinar is where you pick a title, pick a topic, and then people either submit questions prior to the webinar or they ask questions live on the webinar. And what they do is they'll get an expert to be able to answer the questions. It's an incredible type of webinar. There's no better way to show that you are an expert at something than when you feel confident enough to be on a webinar like this and to be able to answer questions that your audience has. It's an incredible way to increase value for your audience and increase your influence as a presenter. So you have the Q&A. Then you have what we call the partner webinar or the JV webinar. The partner webinar is where you take someone, another expert in an industry that has a very similar audience as to the one that you're trying to reach, and the two of you partner together to present one particular topic. Okay? Now, it's not a host and an expert. This is actually 2 experts that are coming together. And so if, let's say that, I've got my webinar coming up called, the 10-step game plan to launching your business, growing your influence, and doubling your income in 2018. So I'm going to be the expert. I'm the one that's going to be teaching that. But let's say there's somebody else. So like let's take Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson's got a huge audience, And if he would let me, he could partner with me. He could JV with me, because he would say, hey, Chad, what you're going to be teaching is going to be incredible information to my audience. So I'm going to partner with you, get your message to them. And then what would happen is anything that we would sell at the end of that webinar, I would give him a pretty hefty commission for allowing me to borrow his audience. And that's called a partnership webinar or a JV webinar. So those are the types of webinars that you have. You have the scripted lecture, you have the interview, the hybrid, the Q&A, and then the partner lecture. Now, there's a few different ways to present a webinar. One is what we call the slide deck only, okay? The slide deck only. Now, what's a slide deck? That's where you can't see me, but you can see a slide, and then you can hear me, and I'm teaching you, but the slides are navigating the journey as you go. Here's what you have to know if you're going to do a slide deck webinar. You need 2 to 4 slides per minute. So if you're going to do an hour webinar and you're going to do 4 slides per minute, you know, that would tell you that you need 240 slides for your 1 hour webinar. That's a lot of slides, okay? Then you have an on-camera webinar. That's sort of what I'm doing right now. An on-camera webinar is where you can see me, okay, and I'm lecturing, okay, and I may have like a worksheet or a handout that you can download and follow along, but you're going to be able to see me. That's an on-camera webinar. Those are pretty powerful. And then you have what's called picture-in-picture. Okay, a picture-in-picture is where you can see the slide, but you can also see the presenter. And the beautiful thing about that is because you can see the presenter, you don't need as many slides. So instead of 2 to 4 slides per minute, you actually can get away with 1 to 3 slides per minute. So if you're doing an hour webinar, you get away with somewhere between 60 and 180 slides. Whereas on the other way, you need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of slides. You don't need it if you're doing a picture-in-picture. My bang for the buck, depending on how good you are, my bang for the buck is I prefer a live webinar like this where my slides come on from time to time. The reason is because I want to connect with a person. I don't want to connect with a slide deck. But if you're not good on camera or you don't feel comfortable on camera, then I would tell you to use a slide deck and just get really good at your presentation. Okay, but let me tell you, if you're trying to make money online, there is no better way to make money online than to do a webinar. You really need a webinar if you're going to try to make money online. You need to do it. Okay. Now let's get into the heart of what I want to teach you today. Okay. What I want to teach you today is, now that we know that webinars are the best, now that we know what type of webinars, now we know what style I'm going to use, let's talk about what should be in the webinar. And I want you to take really good notes on this, because a webinar can really make or break your business, okay? And it doesn't matter, honestly, it doesn't matter what you're selling, okay? A webinar can make or break your business. So let's take some notes today on what is in the webinar, okay? And if you have questions, I'm going to be checking all 3 chat rooms so you can ask them as we go. Kathy wants to know, do you audio voiceover on the slide deck only option? So Kathy, if you're, I'm talking mainly about a live webinar today. And so what you would do is, yes, you would audio voice over the slide deck. So in other words, most webinar software programs will allow you to share your screen. So you can share your screen so people can see your slide deck, and then they can let you hear the voice. And so that's probably the best way to do it. If you're doing an auto webinar, which means your webinar just plays on automatic, you can record those. You can record your lecture with a really nice microphone, and then dub it over the slides if you want to do that. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them throughout the day. I have 3 rooms I'll be going back and forth in. But let's talk about the webinar flow, okay? What should be in the webinar, okay? Now, there are 8 components to a webinar. So if you're outlining a webinar, there's an 8-step process I'm going to take you through on what you want to do. The first one is what we call the pre-party, okay? The pre-party. Now, what is the pre-party? The pre-party is the part of the webinar where it's about 10 minutes before the webinar starts and about 5 minutes after the webinar starts. It's that 15-minute window that we call the pre-party, where people are beginning to click the button, go into your room, and they're getting ready to hear the teaching. Well, that 15 minutes, 10 minutes prior and 5 minutes after you start, that 15 minutes is incredibly crucial to the success of your webinar. What you want to be able to do in that pre-party is you want to be able to go in there and you want to begin establishing rapport with your audience, okay? So you want to, hey, how you doing, John from West Virginia? So glad to have you here. And then you're going to start getting them to use your chat room. Why? Because the chat room, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, is incredibly important. So you want to get them accustomed to beginning to use that chat room. So hey, you can say something like, hey, if you're joining us, do me a favor over in the chat room, let me know who you are and where you're from, where you're watching from. And those of you who follow my teaching, you know that I try to do that often, because if I can get you engaged in the chat room, chances are you're going to stick around with me longer. So the pre-party lets me do a few things. Lets me engage the chat room. Second thing it does is it lets me work out any technical glitches that I may have, and I can do that in an informal manner. The third thing is it lets me become personal with my audience, and it lets me get all my jitters out, okay? So as I start hanging out with people, if I just go right into the teaching, I'm going to have all kinds of jitters. I'm going to be nervous. My hands are going to be shaking. My palms are going to be sweaty, and that's not any good. But if I can get in there and I can just start shooting the breeze with you, and I can just say, so Dolores Hedden just joined us from Covina. I can say, hey, Dolores, how are you? How's the weather in Covina? Are you guys protected from those fires? So what I can do is I can engage my audience in conversation, and I can just relax everybody. I can relax me. I can relax them. And then what it does is it allows me to become very personal with the people on my webinar, which is a crucial step to longevity. And what I mean by longevity is you want people to stick around on your webinar, because if you're selling something at the end and they don't ever make it to the end, then you're going to lose out on the money. So that pre-party is incredibly crucial. So pre-party, 10 minutes prior, 5 minutes before. What you want to do is you want to be able to have like a countdown timer. So like have your title slide and a countdown timer so people know when your webinar is going to start. And I always run that thing about 5 minutes behind. Okay, so put a 15-minute countdown on, start that thing 10 minutes prior to your webinar starting. And then what that does is it lets people know that it's going to be starting in a minute. They can hear your voice. You can shoot the breeze. You can talk anything that you want to. Don't talk business, but talk anything that you want to. And what that does is it sort of warms the crowd up and warms you up as well. It takes away the nerves. Second part is you have the welcome. Okay, the welcome. So once you've done the pre-party, the next thing is you've got the welcome. So that countdown finally hit 0, and now you got a title slide. Okay, that says, hi, everybody, welcome, like, for instance, if we're using my webinar, hi, everybody, welcome to the 10-step game plan to launching your business, increasing your influence, and doubling your income in 2018. I'm Chad Thibodeaux. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm so glad to have you on. So see, what that's called the welcome. So I have my title slide, and then I come on and I welcome. Then what I want to do is I want to move over to the agenda, okay? I want to move over to the agenda. Hey, what we're going to be talking about today is incredibly important. I'm going to be helping you figure out how to launch a business. Many of you have wanted to launch your business. Some of you want to double your income. That would be a really good deal for you. Some of you set a lot of goals at the new year and you can't fulfill them. Well, we're going to give you a game plan today on how to actually fulfill your goals in 2018 and accomplish all of your dreams, right? So I've given them an agenda. Here's what we're talking about. Then I'm going to move into the big promise, okay? So here are the 3 components of the welcome. You have the title, you have the agenda, and then you have the big promise. Now, what is the big promise? The big promise is what you can promise them if they implement what you're teaching will happen. Okay, so I would get on there and say, hey, here's what I'm going to promise you today. I'm going to make you a promise today that every time you've launched a business and it's flopped, I'm going to promise you that those days are over. I'm going to promise you that if you implement all of the information that I give you today, that you're going to have an incredible game plan that you can use, a step-by-step guide that you can use to not only launching your business, but increasing and growing your platform. So that means that more people are going to watch you, more people are going to listen to you, more people are going to look at you as an expert, and because of that, more people are going to give money to you, and that's why I can make you the big promise that if you do everything that I say and you implement all this, you've got a really good chance of actually doubling your income next year. See, that's a big promise. Big promises are incredibly important on webinars because if you have a big promise, then people will stick around. And once again, if you want people to stick around to the end, because if you're selling something at the end and they're not there to watch it, it sort of goes back to the whole thing, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did it actually make a sound? Same exact thing with your webinar, okay? So that's why you have to spend a lot of time on the big promise. And the third part is house rules. House rules. Now, what are house rules? This is where you get the opportunity as a host to set the ground rules. Hey, here's what we're doing today. You said that in the agenda. Now, here's the rules. What I need from you is I need you right now to close down Facebook, close down any email programs that you have, shut down any programs that you have going. Why? A couple of reasons. One, our webinar today is going to be using high-definition cameras, and it's going to take a lot of bandwidth, and you're going to need 100% of your resources. Two, You deserve this. And I would go into this, you deserve this moment. You deserve this moment. You deserve this opportunity. Okay? You deserve the opportunity to hear what I've got to say today and apply it to your business so your next year can grow. And I want to just tell you something, and I'm just going to be frank right now, and I'll get frank with them on the webinar. I just want to be frank right now. If you're Snapchatting while I'm teaching, you're not disrespecting me. I'm just a dude on the other side of the camera, but you're disrespecting you. What you're saying is that you don't need help. What you're saying is you don't need to take your life to the next level. Okay, because you're distracted and your spirit is duplicated. So what you need is divided. Excuse me. So what you need is I need you as your presenter today. I need you to close all that down. You owe this to yourself. Give yourself the next 60 minutes to be able to focus in on something that literally can transform your life. And during this House Rules, guys, I lay it on thick. Okay, I lay this stuff on thick. Why? Because think about it. If you really believe that your information is life-changing, then why wouldn't you bring the lumber? I mean, you would not go listen to me in a lecture hall and have your iPad out and playing Roblox while I'm trying to lecture you, right? So why would you do that in a webinar? So I lay it on thick right there, but you do it with a smile on your face. You do it funny, okay, and then everything works. And once again, you can reiterate the chat room. So, hey, listen to me. If you're ready to learn this and you're ready to take 2018 by storm and double your income, I want you to let me know right now in the chat room. Just say, Chad, I'm ready, or make some kind of statement in the chat room so I can know that. And what that does, once again, it re-engages that chat room because, like I'll say a million times a day, if you can re-engage them in the chat room and they can begin commenting, chances are they stick with you. Rochelle says, does Zoom work for webinars? And if you use a service that shows participant faces, is that good to record for the auto play? A replay? If not, what do you recommend? Michelle, I'm going to get to that in a little bit later about what platforms that we use. So hang in there for me, and we'll get to all that. Don't forget, if you have a question for me, I'd be more than happy to answer that. Just simply put it in the chat room. I do have 3 rooms that I'm going back and forth on, and I will try to check all 3 of those throughout the day. So we said the first part is the pre-party, the second part is the welcome, third part is the house rules, and all of that you want to know about. How long does that take? You want to get through that entire part in about 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. You don't want to drag this out. You want to get through that quickly. Why? Because you want to get to the heart of what you're trying to teach as quickly as possible so people stick around with you. Okay. The fourth part is the hook. The hook. This creates tension. Okay. And tension is one of the biggest keys that people miss in webinars. And so because of that, people bail on their webinar. Now, what is a tension? What is a hook? What is a tension? A hook, or tension, so to speak, is something that you say that causes somebody to think, to process, like, what? Did he just say that, or did she just say that? I'm not sure if that's right. And they want to stick around while you resolve that tension. Because if you think about it, that's all a webinar is. A webinar is placing a hook, creating tension, and then backing your story up to resolve that tension. Okay? And then once that tension is resolved, then people are like, aha, I got it. Now I need that product because I have that exact tension in my life. So you want to be able to create tension right there in that hook. So, for instance, like if I was, like we'll take my webinar. So I'm getting ready to do this webinar called, the 10-step game plan to launching your business, increasing your influence, and doubling your income in 2018, right? So what I would do is I would get on there right after my house rules, and I'd say, okay, guys, are you ready? Let me know. All right, so everybody's ready. I would go on there, and I'm going to say something like 97% of you are going to launch your business and absolutely fail. 97% of you. 97% of you are going to invest money in your business this year, and 97% of you are going to make zero money this year. In fact, what I'm going to tell you is almost everybody, including you, makes absolutely no money with their online businesses. None. Let me prove it to you. How many of you launched your business and you made less than $10,000 this year? Let me know in the chat room, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll set that tension. I'll sort of aggravate that and start getting some comments on it. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to help you reverse that trend, and you're going to become part of the 3%, okay? If you don't listen to me, then you're going to end up in the 97%, and you're going to end up making little to no money this year, even though you made a huge time investment, made a huge money investment, and you've even got your reputation on the line. Many of you, your spouses, they're banking on this working. You told them it was going to work. They're banking on it working, and you're not going to, and you don't want to be a failure. But listen to me. If you don't listen to what I'm telling you, you will end up failing, and you will be part of the 97%. So I'll give them some kind of like tension like that. Why? Because it causes you to lean in. You don't want to be part of the 97%. And who wants to be part of the 97% that fails? I want to be part of the 3% that passes. Then what I'll do with that hook is then I'm gonna just sort of agitate it now, right? So now I've laid a problem out. Now I'm just gonna agitate that, and then what I'll do is I'll think about some of the problems that my particular audience has. Okay, so for instance, my audience are people who are relatively new to the online business world. Okay, they're trying to create money online, which is incredibly important for them. And so what I'll do is I'll ask them the question, what kind of problems are these people going to have? Okay, so here, let me just tell you what some of the problems are. And this is important for you to do homework when you create your hook statement. So let me tell you what the problem my audience has. What my audience has is there are 381 million different options out there, and they read book after book and webinar after webinar and guru after guru, and because of that, they've got 28 different directions that they're going, and they can't get launched. And they're completely confused, and they're overwhelmed, and that overwhelm has caused them to be paralyzed. Okay, and so they don't ever start. They want to start, and what they'll do is they'll go to their computer and they'll start, but then they'll see an ad pop up, bloop, 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 and then they'll go click on that ad, and they'll read, oh well, I need that book, and they'll buy the book, or oh, I need to register for this online course, and they'll register for the online course, or oh, I want to sign up for this free lead magnet, or maybe I want to do this, or maybe I want to do that, or they'll start the process. They'll get on step 3 of 10, and they'll, oh, I don't know if I want to do coaching. Maybe I want to do this. And so what happens, the number one problem with my audience, in fact, let's be honest, those of you who are in my audience, be truthful with me. How many of you have done this? The number one problem with my audience is they take way too many, they're way too diversified in with what they want to do. They try to do too many things at one time, and they end up becoming mediocre at most things, and they don't become excellent at anything, and more times than not, they don't ever get their product off the ground, or they don't ever make money with their product. They're just confused, right? Because all these experts have told them what to do, when to do, how to do it, and because of that, they're just utterly confused. So like Ron says, you're making everybody cry. Sorry, Ron, not trying to. Kathy says, that's me. Steve says over and over and over. Rochelle says, I'm guilty. So because of that, because I know that that's the number one problem on my webinar, what I'm going to do is I want to help you with that, right? Literally. Like my passion and dream in life is to help people like you get their business launched, increase their influence, create a platform for yourself, because leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And then I want to see you make a ton of money doing the very thing that you love. So if that's really what I want to do, then you deserve me to piss you off on my webinar. You deserve that. And I want you to process that for a minute. You can't let people off the hook with your hook. Your audience deserves for you to piss them off. And I'm not saying piss them off as in like say something stupid. I'm saying piss them off as in tell them exactly where they are, the mistakes that they're making, the frustration that they have, and the lack of money that they're making because of the mistakes that they're making. They deserve you to tell them that. And if you can tell them in your hook exactly the pain that they're going through, do you know what happens? They lean in. They listen. They elevate you as an expert. They stop asking questions about why you're the right person to present. And they just listen. They have pencil and paper in hand, and they're going to absorb everything that you have to say. Why? Because you've established yourself as an expert with the hook. Now, notice, I did not establish myself as an expert with my credentials. I didn't establish myself as an expert with my beautiful, my beautiful outlandish title. I established myself as an expert by telling you exactly where you are. And because of that, you will listen to me for an hour if you have to, because as Rochelle says, anger is an incredible motivator. Okay, and because I was able to agitate that anger within you, you're going to listen to me. Now, here's the key to making money. If I piss you off in my presentation, the product I'm selling you better doggone solve that problem. Okay, so your product that you're selling has got to resolve the anger that's within somebody. And if you have a product that can resolve that, then you can make a ton of money on a webinar. Let me just belabor this point for a moment. Hang in there. So I've got I'm going to be giving you my Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy and then my Launch 28 online class, right? Those are, in my opinion, they're very good products for the money, like really good products for the money. And if you follow them step by step, you've got a really good shot at solving your problem and getting focused and not being diversified. But really what I want to do is I have a high ticket offer. And my high ticket offer is really what I want is I want you guys to buy my online, not my online coaching, although you're welcome to that. Many people can get in. That's going to help so many people. But really, I want you to buy my one-on-one coaching because that's where I make money is in my one-on-one coaching. So what I've got to do is I've got to be able to establish the problem, set the hook, so to speak, and I got to reel you in by agitating that problem, and then I've got to put your mind at ease that everything is going to be okay by giving you incredible teaching, okay? And then I have to offer you something to buy. You're going to buy it, but then I have to nurture you to the point where you spend a lot of money with me, okay? That's the whole point of a webinar. But the reason why I can present a webinar, the reason why I'm confident with what I do is that I'm 100% confident that if I can coach you and I can teach you and I can train you, that we can ultimately get results. They may not come immediately, but I know me and I know you and I know that I'm not giving up on you, okay? And I know that I'm in it for the long haul. And I know that I'm not like every other coach. I don't watch the clock. I don't bail on you after your time is up. Why? Because I'm with you until you get results. And because I know that, I can piss you off all I want on the webinar, on that hook, because I know that I've got something that's going to drastically change your life. It's going to cost you some money, but I've got something that can drastically change your life. Now, let's get it out of this webinar point because the reason why I'm belaboring this is the part that everybody skips, and it's the most important part of the webinar, right here. Let's go to church. You guys want to go to church? Let's go to church, okay? I was a pastor for 19 years. If you guys have watched my training, you know that, okay? And I wasn't just a pastor, but I was a pastor in a Baptist church. And in Baptist churches, we have these things called altar calls at the end, right? How many of you grew up in a church, be honest, how many of you grew up in a church where there was an altar call at the end, okay? Or as we call it, an invitation. There was an invitation at the end. And we would give you an invitation at the church to come forward and to convert to Christianity. That was the altar call. So what the pastor would do then is the pastor would get up there and he would give a webinar. You would be like, wait, Chad, he didn't give a webinar. Sure he did. Every time you go to church, you're going to a webinar, a live webinar. Some of you go to these really fancy churches where they have multiple campuses, so you go to an auto webinar. But every time you go to church, you go to a live webinar. You do. Think about what's happening. The pastor is going to get up there, and he's going to place a hook at the beginning. Okay, he's going to do something to agitate you, and then he's going to spend the remaining 30 minutes or 45 minutes, or in my case, an hour and 20 minutes, resolving the tension that he just started. And then at the end, he's going to sell you something. What's he going to sell you? If you're not in the church, he's going to sell you the opportunity to convert. If you're not a member, he's going to sell you the opportunity to join. If you're not serving, he's going to sell you the opportunity to begin serving. If you're not in a small group, he's going to sell you the opportunity to get in a small group. If you're not giving, he's going to sell you the opportunity to give, right? So every time you go to church, those of you who go to church, every time you go to church, you are going to a webinar, okay? That's what you're doing. And all the webinar is you place the hook, you teach them to set yourself credible, you teach them something that will help them, and at the end you ask for something. That's why a hook is so important. Ron says, lost your feed. How many of you lost my feed? Let me see this. Is anybody on? No, I got plenty of people on. So some of you aren't going to be able to go to church the same anymore, okay? Some of you are going to get up there and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm just going to a webinar. That's all church is. All church is a webinar. You can take the same format that you see in church every Sunday. You can apply that to this exact principle here. So let's move on. So the first part is the pre-party. This is where the 10 minutes before, 5 minutes after, you are on there and you are establishing yourself. You're giving some, building rapport. You're working out the technical glitches. You're having fun with people. You're shooting the breeze. You're talking about the fires in LA. You're talking about sports, world, whatever it is. Okay, you're just shooting the breeze. It has nothing to do with anything. You're just trying to keep your audience engaged, okay? Meanwhile, that countdown timer is going, and then when it hits 0, then it goes to the second part, which is the welcome. So where you have a title slide so people can see what you're talking about. You're going to talk about your agenda, and then you're going to make your big promise, okay? You're going to make them a big promise that everything is going to be okay. The third part is house rules. Okay, this is where you lay it on thick. You tell them that they got to turn their cell phone off, get rid of their email, turn their Snapchat off, and you need them to be focused with everything that you're going to do, okay? Because they deserve this. They deserve to learn this information so they can transform their life. And then you get them to get engaged in the chat room. Then the fourth part is what we just finished talking about is the hook. This is where you create tension. So you set the problem, you agitate it, okay, you agitate it, and then the remaining of your webinar, you're going to solve it, okay? Then the fifth part is what we call the introduction. Now, there's only 8 parts, and you may find it weird that you don't even get to the introduction till part 5, okay? Part 5. The introduction is after you've created the hook. So like, for instance, what I would do is I'll get on there and I'll use my 97%. Did you know that 97% of you are not going to make any money this year online? Now, 100% of you are going to spend money online. You're going to invest your time, your energy, your effort. Probably most of you got ClickFunnels and Infusionsoft and Aweber and Entreport and all of these programs that you need in order to launch your business. But 97% of you aren't going to make any money, even though 100% of you are going to spend money. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how to be part of the 3%. So I get in there and give the hook. And then I'll go on and I'll give them my big, gigantic promise that everything's going to be great, and here's what we're going to teach you today, and on and on and on. But then I always say, but first, let me tell you about me. Let me tell you why I'm the right guy to teach this class for you today. And then I'll go on and hi everybody, I'm Chad Thibodeaux, and I'm the founder of Launch Fuel, and I'll talk about my coaching. But then what I'll do is I bring it right back to them. Okay, so I started my story. I've been an entrepreneur since 16. Have you guys ever heard my story? Anybody want to hear my story? I'm not getting any feedback from you guys. You guys got to participate with me. You guys know me. You got to participate with me. You guys want me to tell just a little bit of your story? So Ron says I lost the feed, but I'm back. Or Brenda says I lost the feed, but I'm back. Okay. Beginning to wonder if my feed is gone here. Okay. Let me just tell you my story. Okay. So I have been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. So when I was 16 years old, my family moved from Portland, Oregon to Chicago. And my parents tell me my junior year in high school that I am going to be homeschooled. And I'm like, excuse me, you're going to homeschool me? They're like, yeah, you're going to be homeschooled. I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, well, you're not going to Chicago public schools because they're not any good, and they were afraid of gangs. You're going to get killed in the gang. That was their fear. So you're not going to go to Chicago public schools, and private schools out here are incredibly expensive, and we don't have the money to send you to a private school. So you're either going to pay for your own way to go to private school, or you're going to be homeschooled, one or the other. And so I had a choice. So my choice was, well, I got to go make some money. So what I did was I went to my garage, and I have all these tools and everything, and so I had a lawnmower, and I had bags, and I had a weed eater and a hedger and whatever. And I was mowing my grass one day when a landscaper came by, and he gave me a flyer. Said, hey, give this to your mom and dad. And on that flyer, they were offering to cut our grass, which literally takes me 5 minutes because it's a 10 by 10 squares, all we had. They were going to cut it for $35 per week. So you do the math, and that's $140 a month to cut my little 10 by 10. They didn't touch the backyard. This is only the front yard. They cut the little 10 by 10. They'll edge it. It's called the mow and blow, right? So they'll edge it, they'll mow it, they'll blow it, and on to the next one. It literally would take them 5 to 7 minutes to do it, but they're going to charge $35 a week. And I had an idea, and my idea was to start my own company. Now, was I an expert at landscaping? No, but I could watch them and I could mimic them. And I knew I could do what they did, and I knew I could do it for a lot less money. So I went inside when I was done. I went inside to my old dot matrix printer and computer, and I created a flyer, and I called my company. I just came up with a name called the Teenagers Landscaping and Maintenance Company. Here's what we do. So, offering full service landscaping, and then I bullet pointed 5 or 6 benefits of my landscaping, and I put the competitors charge $35 per week. I only charge $7 per week, right? I came in way low. Now, here's what happened. Long story short. So I printed that flyer, and I went through my neighborhood, and I passed out about 100 flyers up and down the streets on all my thing, and I put our phone number. And no joke. By the end of that summer, I had 200 homes, 200 homes that I had booked for landscaping, and in the wintertime we blew the snow off the sidewalk, 200. And I went to my basketball, so I had enough money now, so I did it on my own for a while, then I got enough money, I went and I paid everybody on my basketball team at my new private school that I could afford, I paid them to come and mow grass. So I bought lawnmowers and weed eaters and hedgers, invested in my little business, and before too long, we're doing 200 homes every single week. Well, you do the math on that. That's $1,400. Now, here's what I told them. What I told them is that I will do everything. I'll do 100% of the collection. I'll do everything that you need, okay? And what I found was people loved our work. We were really inexpensive, and so they were already used to paying $35. So when I would go to collect $7 from them, because I did it manually, we didn't have internet back then. When I did it manually, they would put like a $20 bill in my hand. So instead of getting $7, I got $20. Now, I split, so all my employees got $3.50 per home that they did. Well, I split the $7 with them. So they got $3.50, but I would make $20. So there'd be many times when I made $13, $14. Fast forward the clock. We did that 2 years. We had well over 200 homes, and we did everything. And the same mom and dad who threatened to homeschool me, okay, were the same mom and dad who bought my company for $25,000 when I went to college. Pretty cool deal, right? Pretty cool deal. So I've been doing this thing ever since I was 16, and then I'll tell them the story about how I started a networking company where I resourced people together, and then started a kids sports company. It's been for 15 years, and then when I was in the church world, really it was more I led my church like an entrepreneur, and I'll go through my story just to add credibility. Okay, and basically what I'm doing is I'm motivating them that it will all come on. So this part here, you're going to come in, you're going to tell your story, you're going to give credibility, you're going to give them a reason to trust, and then you're going to move to social proof, or you're going to give testimonials of people who benefited from your teaching. Then the next part, the sixth part, this is where you teach. It's called core content. Core content. This is the main teaching. This is what they signed up for, and what I'll do is I'm going to give them 30 solid minutes of my best stuff. I mean, my best stuff. I'm going to get on there, and I'm going to teach the heck out of them. So my webinar here before too long, we do the 10-step game plan to launching your business, increasing your influence, and doubling your income in 2018. I've got a 10-step process that I created, and I'm going to give them my best stuff for 30 solid minutes. They're going to be eating it up. They're going to love it. They're going to learn a ton. Remember, law of reciprocity here. So that's what I do in the core content. And the seventh part is then I'm going to move to the pitch. Okay, the pitch. Okay, and the pitch is incredibly important to any webinar. The pitch is you need a transition. How am I going to get out my core content into my pitch? Something I learned from Russell Brunson is the easiest way to transition from your teaching to your pitch is simply by asking people if you can. And so what I'll do is I'll say point number 10, and I'll give it to them. All right, guys, hey, that's what I have. Hey, hope you guys, hey, how many of you enjoyed that teaching right there? And then I'll say, hey, can I ask permission? I need some permission. Let me know in the room over here. Okay, can I have permission just to tell you what I got, to pitch you my stuff? Okay, and then people will give you permission to literally give them a pitch. So I'll go in and I'll pitch them. I'll talk to them about the Launch Fuel or the Launch 28 class, whichever one I'm selling, and then I'll transition. And then the pitch has got 7 components to it. Okay, here it is. Okay, 7 components to the pitch. So number 1, you have the transition. Okay, some kind of transition phrase to get you out of the core content into the pitch. The second part of the pitch is you have a close. Now, what is a close? You think about this, okay? Let's take it back to our church days, right? So every pastor who gives you an altar call has a close. What a close is this is where you lay on the emotion, okay? You lay on the emotion. So the close would be something like, guys, you know that 97% of you aren't going to make any money. Are you ready to be part of the 3%? I mean, listen, are you ready? I mean, I want to know. Are you ready to be part of the 3%? Are you ready to take control of your life and make 2018 the best year ever? Are you ready to look at 2018 and say, this is the year that my business takes off. This is the year my business makes money. This is the year that I finally get paid to do what I love. Are you ready to do that? Okay, tell me, are you ready? I want to know, are you ready? I'm not moving on unless you're ready. So that's called the close. And then what I'll do is I'll give the offer. The offer is, this is where I get in, I talk about my product. So what I've got to help you do that is my Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy. And then I've got a statement, okay? Some kind of statement that describes my Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy. And then I'm going to get in there. I'm going to talk all about here's what you're going to learn. Here's what you're going to do. Here's how this is going to help. I may even show you a little bit behind the scenes. So I may show you, like, let me just jump online and show you what behind the scenes looks like. I'm going to show you my Launch Fuel. Now, I'm not telling them how much it costs. I'm just telling them about the product, okay? So that's what the offer is. So you have the transition, then the close, and then the offer. Then you're going to move to risk reversal. Now, what is risk reversal? You haven't even told them how much money it costs yet, but you're already going to start talking about risk reversal. Now, let's talk a little bit about the risk reversal. The risk reversal are things that you can do to begin reversing the risk in somebody's mind. So in my case, okay, I got to think about the problem. The number one problem that my particular audience has is that they're too spread out. They launch way too many things, and they get spread out thin, and they don't ever make any money because they're chasing 100 rabbits, right? So what they're going to ask is, why isn't this just another one? Okay, how do I know I'm going to make money? So I begin answering those questions before they're asked. And so I'll say something like, now many of you probably are wondering, Chad, is this just another shiny golden object? And I'm going to tell you it's not. This is practical teaching. This isn't theoretical. This is practical teaching. And I've got over 200 people that I coach every single week right now in my ClickFunnels Design Academy, in my Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy, and in my one-on-one academy. We work with over 200 people. And this is practical stuff that you can take step by step. I'm a logic-based teacher. I'm not a theory-based teacher. I'm a logic-based teacher. And what I love doing, just like I did in my presentation today, I love taking you step by step by step. So I want you to know right now that this truly is a blueprint. It's not easy, but you're going to be able to take this information and follow it step A to step B to step C to step D. And when you're done, you're going to be able to launch your product, grow your influence, and double your income. Now, let's talk about the money. So some of you are going to be investing some money with me today. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Okay, what I'm going to tell you is that if you buy the product and you do the work and this does not work for you, you show me the work that you did, and I'll be happy to refund your money. If you don't want to give a money-back guarantee, a risk reversal will be like this. Hey, here's what I'm going to do. I want you to implement this information. And if you're struggling with it and it's not quite working for you, I'm going to give you my phone number, and you're going to be able to call me personally, and I'm going to give you an hour of my time, and we're going to figure this out together. Okay? Risk reversal. Other risk reversals are, hey, I'm going to put you in my private Facebook group where you're going to get peer-to-peer support. So when you're down and you're feeling a little bit low, you're going to have people that you can rely on immediately. That's a risk reversal. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my stack. Okay, my stack. Now, what the stack is the stack is what you're offering. Okay, and how much it's worth. Okay, I've got a 12-step process you can see sometime in my teaching, but you're going to move to your stack. So what I'll do is I'll say, in the Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy, you're going to get a weekly mastermind where I'm going to interview experts from all around the world who are an expert in a particular niche and launching a business, and I'm going to ask them specific questions so they can help you get specific answers. Okay, masterclass, and it's worth X amount of dollars. And then I'll say something like, and then every Monday I'm going to come to the airways just like I'm doing right now. I'm going to come to the airways. I'm going to give you in-depth coaching. I'm talking like I'm going to spend a lot of time with you. I'm going to give you great coaching, better coaching that you can get anywhere. I'm going to give you coaching that you would have to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for with other people online. I'm going to give it to you free just for being part of my online program. I'm going to do that every single Monday, and that's worth X amount of dollars. And then you're going to get and whatever. So I'll just start stacking. Okay, the 5 or 6 or 7 things, I'll begin stacking them so they can see it. So that's part of my stack. But there's a second part of the stack that I want you to grab a hold of that people miss a lot of times that is equally important. So the stack says, here's everything that I'm going to offer you, and here's how much it's worth. Okay, so it may be worth 10 grand. Okay, you're not going to pay 10 grand, but it may be worth 10 grand. But there's a second part of the stack called, if all this did was, would it be worth it? And this is now what I call the emotional stack. Or now that I've given you the practical, logical, theoretical stack, now I'm going to move to the emotional stack. And I'll say something like, hey, if all this did was to get you laser focused and give you a game plan that you can actually launch your business, would it be worth it? If all this did was allow you to break the 1 comma club and make $1,000 this next month on your product, would it be worth it? Hey, if all this did was to prove to you that you can actually take a product and you can make it available online and actually make money, would it be worth it? Okay, if all this did was, and so what I'll do is I'll go through 5 to 7, if all this did was, And what I'll do is I'll be laying on the emotion. Okay, that's what you do in a webinar. You lay on the emotion. You get people to think. So you teach them logically, and then you sell them emotionally. Okay, and I'm going to go on. I'm going to sell that emotionally. 5 to 7 things. If all this did was, would it be worth it? Okay, and then I'll move on to the investment. It says, okay, now how much is this worth, or how much does this cost? Well, as you can see, that it's worth $10,000. And as you can see, and I'll reiterate those 7 things. But you're not going to pay $10,000. What you're going to pay is $29 a month. In fact, I'm going to give you your first month for free. So I'll take all the risk. I take all the risk. We take no risk, right? So I'll move into that. That's in the pitch. So I have the transition, the close, the offer, the risk reversal, the stack, and then what I'm going to move into is I'm going to move into what we call scarcity. Okay. So after the stack, I encourage them to buy. Now I'm going to do scarcity. And what scarcity is I'll put a countdown on the screen, and the scarcity is that, listen, when that countdown hits 0, something negative is going to happen. So either the product's going to go away, the product is going to increase in price, or the bonuses that I'm offering are going to go away. Okay, you have to have some kind of scarcity. Why? Because you want people to be able to purchase from you right now. You want to be able to get those early adopters in right now to pull out your credit card and make money, because there's nothing like doing a webinar, and at the end of that webinar, seeing $10,000 more in your bank account. Okay, it's an amazing feeling. So that's why you have to have scarcity in there. And then you have bonuses. Okay, these are bonuses that you offer it, and then finally you're going to tell them to purchase. Okay, so that's the pitch. And then finally, the last part of the webinar is what we call Q&A. So remember, scarcity is we got a 15-minute countdown going on. Why people can purchase. Okay, and at the end of that 15 minutes, either the price is going to go up, or the bonus is going to go away, or something negative is going to happen. So now what you want to do, why that 15-minute clock is going down, you want to go back into teaching mode, and you want to do what we call Q&A. You want to answer their questions why the countdown is running. So you're adding more value, keeping people on the webinar itself, and so that's the webinar. Okay, so let's see what kind of questions you have. Brenda says, great teaching. Thanks for sharing. I hope there's a recording. Brenda, I think we are recording it. We'll make this available in the Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy. Hope you are a member. If not, I will tell you how to do it. There's a lot more to webinars than just simply the presentation. Okay, here's what you have to know, and I'm just going to briefly touch this, and I've got a coaching call I've got to get to. I'm going to briefly touch on this, and we may do this another day. But I go into depth on this training in the Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy. Okay. You have to know that somewhere between 30 and 50% of all of your sales will not come on the webinar, but will come on the backside of the webinar. Okay, so because the numbers that you have to know is research is telling us that only about 30 to 40% of anyone who registers for a webinar will show up for the webinar. So if you have 100 people who register, chances are you're only going to have 30 people show up. Maybe even 25 if it's a cold audience, okay? So you're only going to get 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 3 at best people to show up for your webinar, okay? So what do you do with all those other people? Do we just forget them? No, they're great. So what you do is you will send them a series of emails, and you can do a couple things. You can ask them to re-register for the webinar. You can send them a replay link, okay, to that particular webinar. But most importantly, you want to make sure that they have access to purchase the product that you're selling on the webinar. So there's a whole email sequence. And so what you do is you'll have a sequence for those people who registered and did not attend. You'll have a sequence for those people who registered and attended but did not stay to the end, and so they never saw your offer. You'll have a sequence for those people who registered, attended, stayed for the offer but did not purchase. You'll have a one for those who registered, stay to the end, purchase. Now you may have some upsells that you want to give them, and then you may have one that abandoned the cart. Okay, so those are the 5 different email sequences that you can create on a webinar. I go in depth on these in the Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy. If you guys want to know how to get it, you can go to launchit.online. Put that in the chat room here on my main page. Launchit.online. That's the webinar. You don't need www. You don't need .com. It's just simply launchit.online. You can go there and you can learn all about my coaching academy. And I offer a free course right now. Now, January 1, this is all changing. Okay, or December 31st, actually. It's all changing. But I offer a free course in there called Launch 28 right now, where you can get all of this teaching I'm giving you in depth for absolutely free. Now, we're selling this for on our webinar. When our webinar launches here in a few days, we're going to be selling it for $697, okay, that just that class, and you can get it free right now by going to launchit.online and signing up for my online program. It's $29 a month. Now, that's double income January 1st. Okay, it's $29 a month. But you can get it free or you can get it the first month free right now, and then $29 a month after that. Guys, you need to get grandfathered into this, okay? Because we've got some training that we have coming down the pipe. Some of the names that we are booking, okay? So we have guys like Dan Henry that are getting ready to come on. We have Joel Orway, the webinar genius from the webinar agency. He's getting ready to come on and to download. We have Liz Benny. Many of you guys know Liz. Liz is an incredible genius. She's getting ready. Those are just three of the names that we got lined up coming up in the next couple of weeks just to be on my masterclass. You want to be on. You want to get in early. Why? It's not a lot of money because the amount of value that we're offering in this class is skyrocketing. Okay, so you want to be able to get in that. So go to launchit.online. It's $29 a month or $199 for the year. The little deal we have going on, I can't believe we're giving all this stuff away, but we're only doing it for now 19 more days or 20 more days, is if you sign up for the annual option, which is only $199 a year, I give you a free 30-minute coaching call with it, okay? And so we charge $500 for a coaching call, and you're going to get that for free just for signing up for the $199 product. So the math is way off. It's way in your favor. So you guys should go and do that. And then you can jump on that Launch 28 class, and you can get the entire training that I do on how to launch a webinar. It's pretty powerful, and it's got all the emails in there, all the email sequences, all the PowerPoint scripts, all the PowerPoint slides, everything that you need to pull off the webinar. We give it to you for free, guys. And so get in there and grab it right now. It's only for 20 more days. We're pushing the heck out of this for 20 days because everything's doubling. So it's going to go to $49 a month come January 1 and $399 a year for the annual rate come January 1. So you can get it for $29 now and for $199, and you're going to get all of that incredible information that's in there. So go ahead and get that. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, I think that's my teaching and training today. Hope you guys benefited from that on how to build an audience, increase your influence, and launch your product using a webinar. Hope it was beneficial to you guys. Love you so much. Really appreciate you. I don't ever take for granted the fact that you guys spend time with me each and every week. A little bit later on today, I'm going to have a guy by the name of Dennis Langlis. He's going to be on our masterclass. I'm going to be looking out for the link for that. So we're going to even have more teaching and more training for you, absolutely free today. So be on the lookout. God bless you guys. Have a great one.